A big hello and a warm welcome, one and all. And welcome to everyone joining us on this Zoom webinar and on your YouTube live streaming. Hi, I'm Dr. Paulette Teresa Chechtel, faculty counselor with University Counseling Services. I'm here along with my colleague, Mr. Keith Rice.
Thank you, Paulette. Hi, I'm Keith Rice, historian and archivist for the Tom and Ethel Bradley Center at the University Library. We are your co-hosts for today's program featuring an essential talk with Dr. Cornel West.
We look forward to delving into today's topic, walking the tightrope, addressing racial battle fatigue. As we do so, it is our pleasure to welcome you on behalf of California State University, Northridge, and our president, Dr. Erica Beck, along with co-sponsors of this event, the Department of Africana Studies, Tom and Ethel Bradley Center at the University Library, University Student Union, and the University Counseling Services. Before we get started, we have some logistical housekeeping items. As a participant of today's program, you have access to the chat function to share your thoughts, interact with each other and with us. You can also submit questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window. During the Q&A portion, there will be an opportunity to ask Dr. Cornel West your questions. Also, please note our interpreters will remain live during the duration of our program, and captioning is also available.
We want to start today's program by respecting and acknowledging the land in which we currently reside. We know land acknowledgements are used by Native people and non-natives to recognize Indigenous peoples who are the original stewards of the land on which we now live. California State University, Northridge recognizes and acknowledges the Sessavitum, the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory of Sessenvania. This is now occupied by our institution, and it honors their elders, past and present, and Sessavitum, descendants who are citizens of the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians. We recognize the Sessavitum are still here, and we are committed to uplifting their stories, culture, and community.
We also want to take a moment to acknowledge the ongoing impact of the coronavirus and the brutal impingement it has made across our culture as well as the globe. We want to acknowledge the immoral devastation of racial, gender, economic, and cultural injustice and anti-Blackness. Lastly, we want to acknowledge the odorous political division in America and the impact that all of these issues continue to breed within our society. At this moment, we welcome CSUN President, Dr. Erica Beck. On October 29, 2020, the California State University Board of Trustees appointed Dr. Erica Beck to serve as the president of California State University, Northridge. Prior to her appointment at CSUN, Dr. Beck served as the president of CSU Channel Islands for over 4 years. Before her work at the CSU, she held the position of provost and executive vice president at Nevada State College. Now, in her second month at CSUN, please help me to welcome Dr. Erica Beck. And we can see that Dr. Erica Beck is saying hello to us through the chat box. She's making us aware of her warm welcome. Here she is. Hi, Dr. Beck.
Hi, good afternoon. Technical challenges. This is something we've become so very used to. So thank you for the invitation. I'm so pleased to be here today and to welcome everyone to the very timely, very important first installment of the Multicultural Speaker Series featuring Dr. Cornel West, entitled Walking the Tightrope, Addressing Racial Battle Fatigue. This opportunity provides us with a really important moment to honor and celebrate Black History Month while also engaging in a crucial conversation designed to illuminate and elevate our Black community. Dr. West is a renowned American philosopher, political activist, social critic, and author. He has made it his personal mission to keep alive the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., speaking truth and bearing witness to love and justice. So thank you, Dr. West, for joining CSUN today and helping us to embrace our personal responsibility for dismantling racism and enacting justice. The events of the past year have brought into stark focus the challenges that our Black communities continue to face in fighting systemic and entrenched racism. These include the unjust deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and far too many others, which mobilized the world and put a spotlight on the Black Lives Matter movement, the federal response to protesters of color versus white protesters that further traumatized every individual who has been the victim of racial violence, and the global health crisis that has further exposed the deep inequities that continue to exist for our communities of color. These events serve to remind us that courageous leadership and action are needed now and required of us all. By engaging in discussions like the one we are having this afternoon, we can embrace the call to action as it provides us with an opportunity to reflect on how each of us can personally facilitate a more just and equitable future. As CSUN's new president, I appreciate the broad expanse of programs dedicated to honoring, celebrating, and elevating the richness of diversity that our students bring to our academic community. As this is Black History Month, we celebrate the transformational work that fills the pages of history, but we also celebrate each of you, our faculty, staff, and students, the future of Black excellence. You are the leaders who will, in the words of Dr. King, continue to bend the moral arc of history towards justice and help us all realize a more brighter and more equitable future. It's an honor to serve as president of an academic community that is committed to inclusive excellence, and I look forward to partnering with each of you as we continue to advance a university that is rooted in equity and facilitates inquiry, discovery, and human potential. So thank you for the invitation to join you today as we learn from Dr. Cornel West.
Thank you, President Beck, for your words and for supporting this program and acknowledging the need to dismantle injustices. At this moment, we want to acknowledge other key individuals who made this program possible. We thank our former president, Dr. Diane Harrison, the CSUN Commission on Diversity and Inclusion, and the President's Cabinet for providing the opportunity to have access to additional funding for equitable programming through the Diversity and Equity Innovation Grant. Dr. Watkins, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. CSUN's Chief Diversity Officer, Ms. Natalie Mason-Kinsey. The Director of University Counseling Services, Dr. Julie Pierce. Moderators for today's program, Executive Director of the University Student Union and Co-Chair of CSUN's Black Student Success Council, Deborah Hammond, and Chair of Africana Studies and Co-Chair of the Black Student Success Council, Dr. Teresa White. We send a special thanks to our student leaders, Olani Labad, the Black Student Union President, Raquel Holloway, our Black Student Leadership Council President, and Deion Turner, the Associate Students Vice President, for facilitating a successful meet and greet between students and Dr. West earlier today. We also want to thank the Dean of University Library that houses the Tom and Ethel Bradley Center, Dr. Mark Stover, who will now share a few words.
Good afternoon. I'm very pleased that along with several other groups on campus, the library and the Tom and Ethel Bradley Center are able to co-sponsor today's event featuring Dr. Cornel West. My thanks to Jose Luis Benavides, Director of the Bradley Center, as well as staff members like Keith Rice, who are dedicated in their support of our mission to document the lives of diverse communities, primarily the Black community here in Los Angeles. We are nearing the end of our celebration of Black History Month, and thus I, like many of you, are reflecting on the events of the past year. These events led to a reckoning on race in America. But this reckoning came much too late for many of us. Those of us who are white should have known much more about the Tulsa massacre 100 years ago, or the insidious practice of redlining and the long-term damage it did to Black homeowners, or a whole host of other examples of structural racism that folks like me didn't learn about in history textbooks. But it is never too late to learn. We can educate ourselves, we can educate each other, and we can learn a great deal from scholars like Dr. Cornel West. And with that, I will turn the microphone back over to my colleague, Dr. Paulette Teresa Schechtel.
Thank you so much, Dean Stover, for your words. Now we're going to welcome Dr. William Watkins, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, who has been a champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and supportive of helping us realize this program today. Dr. Watkins.
Well, thank you, Dr. Teresa Schechtel, for your kind introduction and for the invitation to be here and give remarks on this evening, which will be, for me, very brief. As most of you know, this is the culminating event of Black History Month. I want to take the time to extend my congratulations and my thanks to all of you who have brought presentations and experiences during this Black History Month, and thanks to Dr. White for her leadership in that planning process. As this month draws to a close, I want to look both back at the past as well as to new beginnings. You see, some 10 years ago, during Black History Month, in fact, we opened the then Valley Performing Arts Center, now called the Soraya, on February 3rd, 2011, and we hosted an event called An Evening with Dr. Cornel West. That was, in fact, the very first event held at that venue, and I'm so honored to be here 10 years later as we welcome him back to Cal State Northridge. Also returning this evening is a friend, a person who I respect and admire so deeply, and who was in attendance 10 years ago as a proud parent of a matador, a daughter named Kenya, who was then one of the chief student organizers of that evening with Dr. West. Joining us this evening, and still relatively new, as president of California State University Dominguez Hills, and a close life and scholarship and struggling partner of Dr. West, is none other than Dr. Thomas Parham, president of CSU Dominguez Hill, and also still a proud parent of Kenya. Dr. West, I wanted to extend to you greetings on behalf of Dr. Parham and the Parham family, your brother in struggle and in scholarship and in learning and lifting in so many ways over the years. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Thank you to all the organizers. Thank you to all the sponsors. I'm looking forward to a fabulous evening with Dr. West. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watkins, for your words. Now our last acknowledgements go out to our university partners from other campuses. We are honored today with guests from California State University, Dominguez Hills, and California State University, Los Angeles. We plan to engage with them in a future collaboration on a project called Black Chat. Black Chat is a program designed to provide a safe space for Black students on all three of these campuses. And the program will be funded through this Diversity and Equity Innovation Grant, and we plan to launch it by the middle of March. So students, be on the lookout for that.
It is our honor to introduce our moderators for today's program. First, I welcome Executive Director of the University Student Union, Ms. Deborah L. Hammond. The USU is a 501(c) nonprofit organization governed primarily by students. She opened a $60 million student recreation center as well as a Pride Center, a Veterans Resource Center, and a state-of-the-art Oasis Wellness Center in 2013. She is currently in the process of planning a $130 million renovation and new construction project for the USU. Ms. Hammond is a faculty member in the Michael D. Eisner College of Education. Deborah serves as the co-chair of the Black Student Success Council, which is committed to closing the opportunity gap and increasing the graduation rates for students of Black African descent at CSUN. She also serves as a commissioner on the President's Commission for Diversity and Inclusion at CSUN. In 2016, the California State University selected Deborah as the outstanding staff member from among all the CSU's 23 campuses for the Wang Family Excellence Award. This award is the highest award presented to an administrator by the CSU. Deborah also received the San Fernando Valley Business Journal's Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017 for her accomplishments as a woman in business. Thank you, Deborah, for joining us.
Thank you, Keith.
Our second moderator is Dr. Teresa White. Dr. White has served as chair and professor in the Department of Africana Studies and director of the University Black House for the past 5 years. She is vice president of the Faculty Academic Senate, co-chair of the Black Student Success Council, and a commissioner on the President's Commission for the Diversity and Inclusion at CSUN. A native Los Angelina, she received her PhD and master's degree from UCLA and bachelor's degree from the University of Southern California. A creative scholar, Dr. White's interests include Black cultural studies, Black feminist theory, Black masculinity, media representatives, and film criticism, just to name a few. Her research has appeared in several notable research journals. Dr. White is also a member of the National Council for Black Studies, the CSUN and CSU Council on Ethnic Studies, the International Visual Sociology Association, and an alumna of the HERS Women's Leadership Institute. Dr. White has produced and directed several documentary films, is the creator and faculty editor of The Captured, a multimedia student research journal, and an oral historian who has chronicled life stories of African American pioneers as part of the UCLA African Americans in Media and Entertainment in Los Angeles project. Please help me welcome Dr. White.
Thank you, Dr. Teresa Schechtel and Mr. Rice for those introductions. We are excited to be here moderating today's program, and it is now our pleasure and our honor to introduce our esteemed guests.
Hello, Dr. Cornel West. So Dr. Cornel West is professor of the practice of public philosophy at Harvard University and professor emeritus at Princeton University. Dr. West graduated magna cum laude from Harvard in 3 years and obtained his MA and PhD in philosophy at Princeton. He has written 20 books and has edited 13. He is best known for his classics, Race Matters and Democracy Matters, and for The Black Prophetic Fire, which offers an unflinching look at 19th and 20th century African-American leaders and their visionary legacies.
Dr. West is also a co-host along with Dr. Trisha Rose of the Tightrope, which is a weekly podcast where they take time to welcome listeners and guests as thought collaborators with revered hosts and public intellectuals. Dr. West is also a frequent guest on The Bill Maher Show, CNN, C-SPAN, and Democracy Now! He has a passion to communicate to a vast variety of publics in order to keep alive the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, a legacy of truth-telling and bearing witness to love and justice.
It's great to have you here, Dr. West.
I am so very blessed to be back. My dear brother Watkins reminds me it's been 10 years. It's hard to believe. 10 years certainly had no impact on him. He looks exactly the same as he did 10 years ago. But I'm so very blessed to be here with my two dear sisters here. You all make such a big difference in your presence in this place. California State University, Northridge, with the visionary captain of the ship. Blessing to see President Sister Erica back, and she's brand new. She hits the ground running and already a force for good in so many ways. I heard the name of Thomas Parham, and I hear that name, I just have to stop and just think of how deep my love and respect actually is for him. The work that he's doing there at the California State University, Dominguez Hills, is extraordinary. And of course, Kenya, who is just his daughter, but a distinguished graduate of this institution. I was just used to work with her. You know, she helped facilitate the new movie Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes,
She played a fundamental role in making that available to the public. So the graduates of this grand institution have a magnificent example in her. I also want to acknowledge, though, there's my dear sister who is a distinguished philosopher. She's a professor in the philosophy department. Her name is Robin Mueller. She is not only a very, very subtle thinker, but she sings the praises of the students all the time here at Northridge. She and Eric Jimenez. And so I want to acknowledge both of them because Northridge is very blessed to have both of them, but especially Robin Mueller. No doubt. No, I'm sorry to go on and on, but I just get excited when I think of what has gone into the making and molding of this institution and the crucial role that both of you have played, the crucial role that you play. And I'm sure Northridge is appreciative of the role that you all played in a number of different ways.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those kind words, Dr. West. So I just want to just share a few more things with you. So our CSUN campus has a history of student activism and staff and faculty who want to support our students and campus community to combat racial injustices. We understand and acknowledge that this heavy work falls on the shoulders of advocates and passionate individuals who want to see change. This work causes racial battle fatigue among student activists, as well as staff and faculty who are committed to racial justice in higher education, including in our institution. So over the next 30 minutes, we plan to have a conversation with you based on questions from our participants submitted to us in advance. In the last 30 minutes of the program, we'll have a Q&A portion where our participants will be able to join us, and we'll share more about that a little bit later. So before we go further, do you want to share or start off with just a brief initial words before we begin with our questions?
Sure. Anyway, I first want to say that I've had a magnificent dialogue with the students here at Northridge just a few minutes ago, and my God, the high quality questions raised, the critical reflections grounded in serious commitment is highly impressive to me. Something mighty is taking place in Northridge. And I think that's very important. It's a salute to the professors, the teachers. It's a salute to the leadership, and it's a salute to the staff. You know, you can't have a university without your staff kicking in. And of course, again, Brother Watkins, his long line of service is so important here. I would want to start off with this, that for me, you know, we always must begin by historically situating ourselves, who we are, what we plan to do, what has gone into the shaping and molding of who we are. So I am who I am because somebody loved me. See, the highest honor I'll ever have is being the second son of Clifton and Irene West, you see. Straight out of Sacramento. I met my dear brother from Sacramento. He's from Del Paso Heights. I grew up in Glen Elder. That's the chocolate side of Sacramento. My church, Shiloh Baptist Church, is in Oak Park. That's another chocolate side of Sacramento. And so when I think of the magnificence of the West family, tied into the magnificence of Shiloh Baptist Church, that gave me a sense of self-respect, gave me a sense of self-regard, gave me a sense of self-confidence that can never be taken away. Decades after decades, I'm still my mama's child and my daddy's kid. I'm still a product of Reverend Willie P. Cook and Deacon Hinton and Sarah Ray, my vacation Bible school teacher. And when I learned that if the kingdom of God is within you, then everywhere you go, you ought to leave a little heaven behind. Hey, that wasn't a platitude. You take it seriously. When I work with the Black Panther Party next door with the children in the prisons, I go to Harvard and Princeton. All of those were just conduits. They were venues through which I could attempt to leave a little more heaven behind. I could learn and see things I didn't see before. I can feel things much more deeply. I can act more courageously. But so much of it goes back to Clifton and Irene and Clifton, Cynthia and Cheryl and Shiloh and the Black radical tradition when I interacted with the legacy of a Martin King, or when I met Bobby Seale and Erica Huggins, or when I remembered a Malcolm X, or when I recalled a Philip Randolph, or when I let the courage of a Harriet Tubman pass through me and I know I'm gonna fall on my face. Because she went back 19 times into the belly of the beast. I'll never be able to come. I won't even be 1/100th of that in terms of courage and vision, but her afterlife is going to be in my life. See, that's the beginning. We got to have a sense of who we are and our identities, whatever it is, racial, gender, sexual orientation. It's got to be grounded in a moral and spiritual integrity and a global solidarity with those Franz Fanon called the wretched of the earth. Now, I'm a Christian, so it's the least of these. I want to know how the brothers and sisters in prison are doing. That's where I start. I want to know what's happening in the hood, on the reservation, in the barrio. That's a moral and spiritual orientation, you see. It's like following Jesus into the temple who ran the money changers out. Ooh, it's hard to be on Pontius Pilate's payroll if you're going to be following that orientation, no, right? Oh, but you got to be able to stay on the tightrope. Do you get tired? Absolutely. The great Goethe used to say, "Who he or she who has never despaired has never lived." I'm a blues man. The heartache is there every morning. So what? What did Billie Holiday do? She pushed that heartache away with her sophisticated style and a smile and the mastery of her musical craft and technique, so she could sing Good Morning Heartache. She could sing about strange fruit, the American terrorism, neo-slavery, Jim and Jane Crow. What you gonna do with it, Billy, from Baltimore City? I'm gonna push it back and keep on pushing, because Curtis Mayfield taught me how to keep on pushing. That's the tradition of a Black people at our best. That's why I'm proud to be part of that tradition. That's why I'll always have a smile on my face. I'll always have fire inside of me, because I got something that white supremacy can never take away, can never flesh out, can never eliminate, can never extricate. Because memories, joy, fire, vision, willingness to serve.
Thank you for those profound words. We so appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So now that you started with all of that, I'm not even sure where to go from there. But let's.
But I'm talking about the same tradition that produced you all.
Well, that's true, and
You know
we'll take that.
It's true.
All of that.
And my sister who's doing the sign, she come out of the same tradition. She know the love inside of her.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, because this program was called Walking the Tightrope, addressing racial battle fatigue. And you addressed that just a little while ago when you talked about despair, and then you talked about Billie Holiday and how she used that despair and sung herself through it. So what are the strategies, the tools that you personally use and that others should be using to deal with racial battle fatigue? First, define it for us, and then talk about how you handle it.
Yeah, indeed. And you all tell me what you think of this definition. When I think of racial fatigue, I think of the ways in which Black people at times could be just overwhelmed by the sheer insanity and absurdity of white supremacist bombardment. All the lies told about Black people, that we're less beautiful, less moral, less intelligent. All of the crimes committed to Black people day in and day out for 400 years. Brother Floyd's public lynching is just the tip of the iceberg, but it goes all the way back for 400 years. With all of this terrorism coming at us in so many different forms, and we do what? We produce freedom fighters. Frederick Douglass called for freedom of everybody. He didn't call for a Black version of the Ku Klux Klan. They terrorized us. If we had created a Black version of the Ku Klux Klan, it would have been a civil war every generation. All of the trauma coming at us. What do we produce? At our best, we produce wounded healers, not wounded hurters. So we healing each other, healing others. So when I get down and out, I turn on a little Curtis Mayfield, turn on a little Aretha Franklin, turn on the dramatics and the Delphonics. I turn on a little Hutchinson Sisters of the Emotions, turn on the Enchantment from Detroit, healing me, empowering me. And of course, when I get to church, I can put on some James Cleveland and Aretha, and I can hear the preaching that somehow is a balm for my soul. So the question becomes, what are the conditions under which Black people can continue to produce the kind of love, community, joy, so that white supremacy is not our point of reference, so that the white gaze is not the lens through which we view each other or ourselves. We have a great tradition. We're a world historical people. Our gifts to the world have been disproportionately influential because we have been willing to be freedom fighters, wounded healers, and then we've been hated for 400 years. Hated so intensely, and yet we keep dishing out love warriors. Here comes John Coltrane's Love Supreme. Here come James Baldwin's love-soaked essays. Here come Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, another love-soaked album. Here come Toni Morrison's genius, Beloved. Here comes Gwendolyn Brooks. It goes on and on. Here come Martin King. On and on. What a people. It is not a function of skin pigmentation. We got Black folk who choose to be gangsters. We got Black folk who choose to be cowards. We got Black folk who choose to be thugs. It's a moral choice. It's a spiritual choice, but it's grounded in what Black people have been able to create in the face of 400 years of terror and trauma and hatred. And that terror, trauma, and hatred continues to this very day, this very moment. So we say to our precious young folk, if you're going to be part of this caravan of love that the Isley brothers sing about, you're going to stay on the love train of the OJ. You're going to have to make some choices. You got to choose integrity. You got to choose decency. You got to choose generosity. You got to choose courage. You got to choose discipline, to do your homework, read, connect to the best of your history. And once you get that together in yourself, within your own context, then you're ready to embrace the best of the world. We've always been a global-oriented people at our best. Global. So when Nina Simone can go to Japan, and John Coltrane can go to Paris, and Billie Holiday can go to Latin America, she touches the souls, they touch the souls of those precious human beings in every part of the world. But they've already been grounded in the best of their ROOTS, their roots, so that their ROUTES, the routes they take from being grounded in the best of their roots, mean that they are able to do what? And this is what I want to end on. This is the benchmark of our history, the benchmark of the best of our tradition, and it's kenosis, KENOSIS, which is learning how to give of yourself, donate yourself, empty yourself, sacrifice yourself for something bigger than you. Something bigger than you. It's like the end of a James Brown concert. That brother would go for 3.5 hours straight. And he would always say what? To the community, I'm an extension of you. You're an extension of me. I don't exist without you. Did anybody come here to hear a song that we haven't played yet? He didn't play Soul Power, James. He said, hit it, Bootsy. Because he came to serve. He said, James, we've been playing for 3.5 hours. The sister needs to hear her song. Hit it, Bootsy. Come on, Stubblefield, get the drummer song. We came here to serve the people. That's what Angela Davis was saying in Los Angeles. That's what Huey Newton was saying in Oakland. We came to serve the people. Now, you might disagree with their ideology, disagree with their vision, debate Malcolm versus Martin, debate Du Bois versus so-and-so, fine. But the bottom line has got to be Black love, Black service to the least of these. Are you serving the people? That's what greatness is. the biblical definition of greatness. He or she is greatest among you will serve whatever gifts you have. Cultivate those gifts to serve others, to empty yourself. You know that beautiful line that Curtis Mayfield has in Gene Chandler's song, Just Be True, that he wrote in 1964, where he says, I've given you all of me and plan to give even more, baby. Now, how in the world you gonna give it all of me and plan to give even more, baby? You said, Curtis was 21 years old. He said, Curtis, you didn't give him everything. How you gonna give him more? That's our tradition.
Dr. West, that is indeed
Wow.
one of the most profound definitions I think I've yet to hear. So we really appreciate that. So as we continue to talk along these lines of racial battle fatigue, and you mentioned spiritual, moral, and spiritual choices, I wonder if you could just share with us your thoughts on the kinds of connections that you see between racial battle fatigue and the increase of social justice movements, particularly, the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah, well, I mean, the marvelous development of our Black freedom tradition with our young people has, again, world historical. It's the greatest manifestation of demonstration in the history of the country, and in many ways, history of the world. And young brothers and sisters say, we tired of police brutality and police crimes. We know there's a long history of it. We are going to organize. We're going to put our bodies on the line. We are going to put tremendous pressure on the status quo and the powers that be in the name of truth. Now, the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. It's not an abstract thing. And in the name of justice. And justice is what love looks like in public. It's like tenderness is what love feels like in private. We've been a tender people. When James Baldwin wrote about Malcolm X, what did he say? He's the most gentle and tender man I ever met. Now you see a lot of white brothers and sisters don't understand. Oh, he's full of hate. He's coming at me. Wait, well, no, he got a love for Black people. So you're not the center stage. Now he was wrong to hate white brothers and sisters, but he hated their devilish behavior. We got to hate devilish behavior in anybody. You can hate the behavior without hating the person. Malcolm came to understand that. But Malcolm's relation to Black people was so tender and sweet. It's like Otis Redding. You try a little tenderness. A baby face on Roni. It's not Roni, it's a tender Roni. There's a tenderness there. And the tenderness allows it to be soulful. You see, so when you talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, it's part of a tradition of a people who talk about justice, but it's not just justice. Any justice that's only justice soon degenerates into something less than justice. It's got to have love, care, and concern. Justice itself can become an idol. People feel good about being a do-gooder, and it's still about them. No. Love allows you to give of yourself so that the justice is a way of ensuring that your care and concern is manifest. And tenderness is the same way. Soulfulness is the sharing of a soothing sweetness against the backdrop of catastrophe. You see, so when you listen to a voice of a Phyllis Hyman or a David Ruffin or a Ted Mills or Blue Magic or Russell Tompkins Jr., the stylistics, what is it about that silky, soulful tenderness? You notice among our young folk, they don't have groups anymore. Because the oligarchs in the recording industry, they're against Black tenderness. They're against Black sweetness. They think all we got is just harshness. But no, tenderness and harshness go hand in hand. You see, I'm tender to my mama. Somebody mess with my mama, I'm on the warpath. You see, so that the tenderness and the harshness have always gone hand in hand for oppressed peoples anywhere, but especially Black folk. So what has happened now, Black Lives Matter says we need to build on this tradition, but young people, they dealing with the most commodified culture in the history of the world. They dealing with a culture centered on money, status, spectacle, and celebrity. And it reduces everything to success rather than greatness. And the Black Lives Matter come along and say, what? We tired of the superficial success. We don't want to hear about the next first Black person this, first Black person that, to use them as some exemplar of success to hide and conceal Black suffering. We want greatness. Greatness focuses on the suffering. Or put it in the biblical term, by your fruits you shall know them, not by your foliage. And the foliage is just what appears to be the cat, all the colors, all the surface stuff. No. Black Lives Matter, they want what Ashford and Simpson called the real thing. Ain't nothing like the real thing. Have you ever tried it for yourself? You still getting secondhand from somebody else. You living a life that somehow is still on the surface. You got to get beyond the deodorized level, keep it funky, and don't fake your funk. We don't need fakes and phonies and frauds. We need folk who are for real. When you look at the Black Lives Matter, they're hungry and thirsty for the real thing. They want the truth. They want justice. And they want love. I've been blessed, of course, to spend much time with them. We get arrested together. Kendrick Lamar got the soundtrack. It's gonna be all right. When we go to jail, we quoting Kasada Shakur, who still got a bounty on her head in Cuba, $2 million, right? That those young folks say, yes, we want this real thing. And you say, everybody, human, wants the real thing. Truth, love, joy, tenderness, sweetness, kindness. And yet it's so hard to gain access to it in a commodified culture. Commodified culture is a culture in which it tries to promote a joyless quest for insatiable pleasures. So if you want to get your body titillated and just get your body titillated, they got all kind of things. But if you want joy, you're gonna have to work at it. It's gonna take tremendous effort. And Black Lives Matter say, we want Black joy, human joy, not just human pleasure that we can get anywhere, not just human success. We want human greatness. We want Black greatness. And that's a beautiful thing, because there's been such a war against Black people spiritually and psychically, trying to reduce our quest for greatness to just success. And our quest for joy, just the pleasure. So just produce a whole wave of Black peacocks. Look at me, I'm so rich, I'm so smart. And I can hear grandmama saying peacocks strut because they can't fly. We've been a people who always wanted to fly. Like you can imagine dear brother Lionel Richie singing Zoom. Zoom, I like to fly away. I think get some distance. Well, I like to fly away. Well, I like to fly away. Zoom, zoom, baby. Y'all know that classic. Oh, that's the anthem. I taught in prison for 42 years. That's the anthem of my brothers in prison. Just put on Zoom. Just put a smile on their face. And the way that you put on this, lift every voice for my grandmother, put a smile on her face. What is it about the Commodore singing Zoom? Oh, it ain't no peacocking. No, it's the real thing. The freedom dreams that the great Robin Kelly talks about. The freedom dreams, it gets us some critical distance from all of this pain, so we're not fatigued, so we're not overwhelmed by weariness, overwhelmed by any sense of being debilitated. And we must never, as blues men and blues women, never be surprised by evil, whatever form. Just be prepared for it. And we should never be paralyzed by despair. Just be ready to battle. And that's the question of a certain kind of education, a certain kind of education. And education is not just formal. You got to learn how to get educated in the street. You got to learn how to get educated in the block on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, and then you're on your way to California State University, Northridge, to get your formal education too. All of that works together.
Thank you so much, Dr. West. We appreciate that eloquent response.
I want to ask a different question. People often talk about that it isn't the responsibility of the oppressed to educate the oppressor. What are your thoughts about that, especially for those of us who have chosen education as our calling, our career path? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Now you all jump in and illuminate this for me too, because I mean, I got a whole lot to learn from both of you all, and of course the students and the faculty and staff out there too. But no, see, I proceed on the notion, my sister, that each and every person, no matter what color they are, no matter what gender, sexual orientation, or nation, that they're precious. And this is a Christian notion of we all made in the image and likeness of God. And therefore, they warrant a certain dignified treatment. So as an educator, when I go into the room, I want to touch each and every student's heart, mind, and soul to unsettle their thinking, to broaden their perspective, to somehow fortify them to be able to be forces of good as they themselves end up pursuing it. Because in the end, we're not indoctrinating anybody. Education is not indoctrination. We broaden their critical consciousness so they then find their voice. That's why the anthem of Black people is not lift every echo, it's lift every voice. Because the echo ain't nothing but an extension of an echo chamber. We don't want that. We don't want all imitation and copies. We want originals. And a voice is like your fingerprint. Ain't nobody got that fingerprint in the world. Even if you got identical twins, they still got a little different fingerprint. That's the voice. That's what we want in our students, you see. So that when we say, well, we're not here to educate the oppressor, there's an element of truth in that. Namely, oftentimes the oppressor has such a deep sense of entitlement that they just assume that they got to be center stage in the education. Now that's wrong. That kind of arrogance has got to go. But once that arrogance goes, you still got the humanity of other folk, no matter what color they are, no matter what gender they are. And they can be educated, they can grow, they can develop, they can undergo maturity. And you never give up on them. Never give up on them, it seems to me, you see.
No.
And that's part of the joys. That's what makes education such a sacred calling. And it's a calling. It's not just a profession. It's a vocation. It's not just a career. It's a calling. And the moment you no longer have joy in your calling in the classroom, it's time for you to find something else to do. Time to find something else to do. You got to have care and concern for those precious students. I'm sure the faculty at Northridge does. I'm not coming down on nobody at Northridge, but I'm just saying this is what it is to put forward the standards for every teacher of every color, every gender and sexual orientation.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for that.
All right, so I just want to pivot to some of your literary work. So in your book, Race Matters, you analyze moral authority and racial debates concerning skin color in the United States. You call on Blacks and whites to understand that racism and race are woven in American history and can never be eradicated without understanding that race matters in everything we consider American. In this context, what does racial justice look like in a post-pandemic United States?
Well, I appreciate that. Well, see, I tend to be part of the abolitionist wing of the Black freedom struggle. So under slavery, I didn't want a liberal version of slavery where the slaveholders treat certain slaves nicely. I wanted to abolish slavery. Under Jim Crow and Jane Crow, I didn't want any Jim or Jane Crow where certain folk are treated nicely. Some can sit in the middle of the bus. A few of them can go up front. No, I want to abolish Jim Crow across the board. And this is Martin Luther King Jr.'s and Fannie Lou Hamer's tradition. And that's the wing that I'm talking about. So I want to abolish poverty. You see, I don't want no liberal efforts or neoconservative efforts. Well, we making progress. We got to Now it's only 35%, used to be 45%. Oh, we're making progress. Now it's 25%, when it used to be 31%. I said, no, Malcolm X say, you don't stab folk in the back 9 inches, pull it out 6 inches and celebrate your progress.
Mhm.
I want to abolish slavery, not poverty. So that is a standard. I want to abolish decrepit schools. I want to abolish indecent housing. I want to abolish the very fact that so many of our fellow human beings, especially chocolate ones, don't have access to health care. So that when I look at it through those lenses, right, it means that we can't really talk about Black freedom until we talk about ways in which we can promote the abolition of those things that are standing in the way of that freedom.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people say, oh, Brother West, that just seems so far-fetched, so utopian, it's so visionary. I said, yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. We need to know what the standards are and how far away we are, so we don't end up rationalizing to ourselves what we think are these great breakthroughs for progress, when in fact, they are very small steps. Very small steps indeed. And we've got to resist the notion that somehow Black freedom is measured primarily by how well the Black middle class is doing. Because that's the discourse of representation. Oh, we're so well represented at the top. And then Black poor people are supposed to live vicariously through the folk at the top. We said, no, I'm part of the National Council of Negro Women. Y'all remember what their slogan is? Lift as you climb.
Yeah.
Don't be celebrating you at the top. And you got all these folks still locked in. No, how you doing? I'm pulling folk up to the best of my ability. I'm not falling into this narrow perspective as if all I'm looking at is how we're being represented. No, I am embracing the least of these, the ones catching the most hell. And I can't do as much as I like, but I'm going to do all I can. That's a very different perspective. And that's what I love about Black Lives Matter. They understand that. The leaders of Black Lives Matter. And you know, we got the queer leaders. We got the lesbian leaders. You got the gay leaders. You got the straight leaders. You got the paperback brown, sunshine yellow, beautifully Black, all the different shades of Black people, all of it tied into what? Tied into a solidarity. I see somebody say intersectionality to invoke our dear sister Kimberly Crenshaw. But of course, when she talked about that in that powerful essay of hers called Mapping the Margins, Intersectionality, Identity Politics, and Violence Against People, Women of Color, she was saying it's also class, it's also age. It's also region, as well as race, as well as gender. So you have to be jazz-like. You got to be flexible enough to be able to move to these different forms of oppression and be willing to fight against them. You can't be against racism, not say a mumbling word about sexism. Can't be against sexism, don't say a mumbling word about homophobia. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's true with the empire too. You can't talk about Black Lives Matter and act as if the lives in Pakistan and Afghanistan, the lives in Libya don't matter when those US drones are dropped. You had to have a global perspective. When there's a military coup in Honduras supported by the United States, you had to raise your voice. I mean, this is what got me in trouble with Brother Barack Obama, right? Dropping 20,000 bombs every year. Black people don't want to say a word about the bombs because they so in love with representation. We so glad to have a Black president. We just been breakdancing for weeks. I break dance for one day because I was glad to help push him in. But then the question is, now you're successful, my brother. Let's see how great you're gonna be. If you bail out Wall Street before you bail out Main Street, that's not great. You're siding with the powerful. When you had that meeting on March 2009 and you told Wall Street, I stand between you and the pitchforks, but I will protect you. I will take care of you. How many Wall Street gangsters went to jail when they engaged in crimes like insider trading and market manipulation and fraudulent activity and predatory lending? Not one Wall Street executive, not one Wall Street criminal went to jail. That's wrong. Let Jamal get caught with a crack bat. Let Letitia get caught with a crack, go straight to jail. So you can see the class bias of this thing. So we want to support our dear brother Barack Obama, anybody else, when they're fighting against white supremacy, when they're fighting against racism, absolutely. But if we're going to be consistent and true to Ella Baker, true to Martin King, then those drones that you dropping in Libya and Somalia, you have to be accountable for those too, because those lives are precious. I learned in Vacation Bible School, Jesus loved the little children, all the children of the world, red, yellow, black, or white. They are precious in his sight. I believe it. I still do to this day. You see, so a baby in Ghana, in Uganda, a baby in Singapore, a baby on the West Bank, a baby in Tel Aviv, a baby in Honduras, they all have the same value as my own baby. Now, of course, you know, you start talking about my kids, I got a little bias, but because I know them better, you know what I mean? But they have the same value in the eyes of the God that I serve as other people's kids, you see, and I teach them that. That's what I learned in Shiloh Baptist Church, you see, and that has revolutionary implications. It has subversive implications, and that's what Black Lives Matter, I think, understands in a very, very important way. The challenge of Black Lives Matter, of course, is the challenge of any young people these days, which is they got to keep the love and the justice at the center, because when you get racially fatigued, you might just say, you know, I need to just opt for some revenge. I need to just opt for eye and tooth for a tooth, because it's just so hard to hold on to love and justice. And I understand that. I understand that. I was a gangster before I met Jesus, and now I'm a redeemed sinner with gangster proclivity.
Yeah.
It's true. So I'm struggling with the gangster inside of me. Sometimes look like I want to opt for revenge. I want to opt for hatred. No, that's not the best of the Black freedom tradition. It's the love and the justice. And the market tells you it's survival of the slickest. Right? That's what the market says, because it's a war of all against all. It's survival of the slickest. Don't get caught. Everybody have to become more accepted with the 11th commandment. Just do anything, just don't get caught. That's why we ended up with a neo-fascist gangster like Trump. All he was a mirror for the culture. If the culture tells you do anything and say anything, if you have power, you can get away with it. You trash the vulnerable, the immigrants, the Muslims, the Black folk, the gays, the lesbians, and so forth. Trash them all you want. You don't have any accountability. You don't have any answerability. That's what Trump was. But he's not isolated. He's a manifestation of this way of being in the world that's at work in the culture. That's why he can still get 58% of the vote of white brothers and 53% of the vote of white sisters. He can get 1 out of 3 votes of Asians, 1 out of 3 votes of Latinos, 1 out of 3 votes of Jews. 28% of queers voted for him. 18% of Black brothers voted for him. If it wasn't for the Black sisters, the Black women, America would have gone fascist. Would have gone fascist. Once again, Black folk rescuing American democracy, just like we did with 200 Black troops in the Civil War, just like we did in the 60s. This time we rescue again, but what happens? America usually re-crucifies our poor and our working class, and the middle class gets unprecedented opportunity. And we think we're making progress. No, we're getting concessions. That's not progress. That's concessions, you see. And if you're not going to treat the Black poor and the working class with the same respect you treat me, then I know it's sounding brass and tinkling cymbal. It's not really serious. That's what I find out about Harvard and other places. We've already known that. You find out it's just a gesture. You see, it's symbolic. Don't talk about diversity unless you mean it. Say what you mean what you say. What is the substance to talk about diversity? Sharing of power. It's not just tokens that you put at the top. And just keep the same hierarchy in place. It's just nice. Things a little bit more colorful up here now. Not too much sharing of power. Diversity is about democratizing. This is what John Dewey taught us in Democracy in Education, for higher education, you see. And we should always keep in mind that when you talk about sharing of power, that means you're talking about value. So you can have some white brothers and sisters who are fundamentally committed to integrity and honesty and sharing of power. So it's not going to be just a matter of skin pigmentation. You can put Clarence Thomas's at the top all you want. It's not going to translate into empowerment of poor people, because as a beautiful Black man, aesthetically, he chooses to side with the powerful and the wealthy. From Wall Street across the board and all of his reflections. That's his choice. He chooses to side with them. He could have sided with poor and working people. He chooses not to. So in that sense, skin pigmentation is never, ever, ever enough. Every identity has to be rooted in integrity and solidarity. We can't say that enough these days.
So if you're thinking about that in relation to the Biden-Harris administration now, what should be their top priority to address racial equity gaps in the US? Where should they be going?
Ooh, it's a wonderful question. I think that they need to take seriously the 14 points put forward by my dear brother William Barber of the Poor People's Campaign, building on the best of the 1960s and Martin Luther King Jr.'s Poor People Campaign, with Sister Thea Harris, our Vanilla sister, who was a co-leader and the co-founder of that movement, right out of Union Theological Seminary, the great institution in New York, that didn't produce, I should say, but that housed for 50 years James Howe Cone, founder of Black liberation theology. You see, that's what, and those 14 points are very much what I was talking about in terms of focusing on poverty, focusing on schools of high quality, jobs of high quality, healthcare for all, ways in which poor and working people's lives can be empowered. For so long, poor people and Black people and brown peoples who are working class is just an afterthought. That's what we love about Brother Thomas Parham. You see, his whole movement of Black psychology was rooted in liberation for people who had been traumatized and terrorized and hated. And how do you come up with various tools as a psychologist? A lot of times the Black church is magnificent. Other times the Black church is blind as a bat. You see, so it discouraged people from getting into psychology and psychiatry. It's too patriarchal, been too homophobic. It's been too scared in raising issues of empire. But it also keeps dishing out some powerful folk at its best. Oh, yes, the Prathia Winds and others, you see. The church needs to undergo some serious transformation. A lot of these Black churches got a Jesus that looks like Michelangelo's uncle. like he's some Italian. Jesus was not Italian. Now, your Italian painters could be wonderful. They're not as great as Rembrandt's from the Netherlands. But Jesus was swarthy, from the Middle East with connections to North Africa. Going to be honest about what he looked like. But in the end, it's not just what he looked like, it's what he stood for. His love. When he goes into that temple and runs out those money changers, there's 500 Roman troops on one side. The bankers are at the center. The intellectuals who rationalize the rule of the bankers were on the other side. And he got a little ragtag team that say, we're going to run them out. That's exactly what he did. Y'all remember that story. Now, see, you don't see that Jesus on the walls of churches, do you? That was the reason why he was crucified. He was crucified as a revolutionary, as a criminal against the powers that be. No, Jesus been deodorized, domesticated, sanitized, sterilized. Oh, no, we want a little nice Italian look at Jesus with a smile, talking about peace. That's what I mean by you deodorize the funk. So you fake the funk. You see, that's the fake theology. No. He loved the people so intensely that he ran them out and was willing to die, and went with both a smile on his face and yet still wondered, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That's a blues line. Wasn't optimistic, it wasn't pessimistic, it was hope. He was a prisoner of hope. That's the history of Black people right there.
Mhm.
When Henry Holland Garnett used to stand up in front of Black folk and say, what? Don't confuse our situation with that of the Israelites of the Old Testament for Christians. For us, Pharaoh is on both sides of the bloody Red Sea.
Mhm.
Everywhere you go, you see Pharaoh. What you gonna do? First, somebody sing a song. Get your soul intact.
Mm.
Somebody crack a joke. We need your mom's Maybelline. We need your Richard Pryor. Crack a joke. Get us smiling.
Mm.
Anita Baker, come on and sing your song, girl. We need some empowerment and spirituality because everywhere we look, we see Pharaoh. But you keep going anyway. You keep moving anyway. Because when you see the sparkle of your little child's and her eyes or his face, you say, I'm gonna keep fighting anyway.
Mm.
That's why all four of us are here right now.
Mhm.
Somebody looked Pharaohs in the face and said, look at those children. They so precious. We're gonna keep fighting anyway, but we don't know how in the world we gonna deal with these Pharaohs.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Dr. West, it's such elegant and thorough and wonderful responses to these questions. I mean, we could sit here and speak with you probably for days on end.
But
I
you
just
also
want to
kind of
capitalize.
let me go on and on and on like that. I really
That's
appreciate
right.
it. I want people to realize
We're
that
delighted.
all of us, we're in this together. We are all waves in that great ocean of a great people who produce this great tradition. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's not isolated individuals here, isolated. No, we in this thing together, and whatever we disagree with, that's all right. We lifting voices. We're not talking about unanimity. We're talking about solidarity. We like a jazz orchestra. Everybody's lifting their voice. Look like they're going in different directions. That's all right. Mary Lou Williams got it under control. That's her orchestra.
Mhm.
She's orchestrating, moving in a certain direction, but she knows the others got to be free to use their voices. That's what we do in these conversations in that sense. And similarly so with the precious students when they raise their voice, because we're in it together.
Absolutely.
All right, excellent. So we are going to pivot in just a few moments, but this is one question that I wanted to ask you, just because you talk, quite a bit about spirituality and love, and that's really important, particularly as we're dealing with so much social unrest and battle fatigue. So, our campus provides healing discussion spaces and cultural humility workshops, anti-racist training, lots of multicultural retreats, and so forth. So still somehow it just doesn't seem to be quite enough. Oftentimes we find ourselves preaching to the choir, same folks coming to the space that already know the responses. So given the climate of sort of anti-Blackness in society, what are your suggestions for bringing about real healing? And particularly, we're just talking about on this college campus.
Well, I mean, it's a rich tradition of Northridge with Sister Kenya and the others, that any movement is not ever a function of just numbers and quantity. It's a question of quality and the depth of the conviction and the commitment of the persons.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Martin used to say, it's the creative minority within any community that make the difference. When he called for the boycott in Montgomery, that's 17 churches out of 90, because the other ones were scared. We understand that Jim Crow could kill you. These defenders of Jim Crow, gangsters of Bull O'Connor, they will kill you. And if you're a pastor, you don't want your people to get killed, but you got to take a chance. So that when we think of campuses, I don't want the students to think that somehow because they don't have a huge organization, they don't have mass student support, that they're not making serious movement. No, you support each other in such a way that your commitment is so deep that nothing can stand in the way. Mm-hmm. And it's just like Walter Hawkins, when he used to bring his choir together in the Bay Area. He say, the choir need rehearsing. Ain't nothing wrong with speaking to the choir. We're gonna get this choir together, because this choir got a role to play that's very special, very special. And you get a whole lot of folk in the choir that don't want to work. You just lovingly escort them out, because you've been singing out of tune for 3 weeks in a row, and it's clear you're not making an effort. And people in this choir got to sing in tune, not because they're conformity, but because they're disciplined and raising their voices at the highest level. And we got standards in this choir. So I'm not against folk when they say, oh, we're just speaking to the choir. Hey, I'm glad we got a choir. Yeah. We could have a duet. You know, that could be Santa Day. Could be Peaches and Herb. You know what I mean? We got a choir.
Mhm.
We got a cloud of witnesses. That's very important. Very important in that regard. And we embrace it, you know, embracing others too. Our brown brothers and sisters, our white and indigenous and yellows. The universality is always built in, but you can't jump the universality without particularity. The last thing we need are Black people who love everybody but Black people. See, that's pathological. That's sick. You're gonna love everybody but your mama, which means what? You don't really know what love is anyway. You're just using a word. See what I mean? But you really love the folk around you. Then by the time you get to the vanilla side of town, you know what love is. It ain't a plaything. It's not manipulation. It's heightened vulnerability. It's humility. That's what Black folk have taught so much of the country and the world. So hated, but teach the world what love is and how to love. That's one of the great gifts of the modern world. And we're not the only ones. We don't have a monopoly on it. But because we've been in the belly of the US empire, everybody had to take notice of it. If the United States start taking over the world, oh, Lord, well, you know, who is this Louis Armstrong? He's a love supreme in the flesh. That's who he is. Who is Sarah Vaughan? She's divine.
All right.
Sarah. Why is she divine Sarah? She got so much love overflowing in her. Sly Stone and sang a song when Larry Graham says, I'm living, loving, over loving. Over loving. Oh, Sly, you hurting me, brother. That feels so good. Keep over loving. Martin overloved us. Malcolm overloved us. Fannie Lou Hamer overloved us. Irene West and Clifton West, they overloved me. And all that love gonna keep coming through me. And nobody can stop it. And it's not gonna stop in the Middle East, not gonna stop in Africa, not gonna stop in Latin America, it's not gonna stop anywhere. Because that's the kind of people that I come from. You know what I mean? And the world needs to know that by our deeds, by our courage. So we'd rather be corpses than be cowards. We'd rather be dead than be afraid. That's the best of our people. And that's a serious challenge. And we do it with a smile and some style. Oh,
Absolutely.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Thank you so much.
This is fantastic. This is just such a great opportunity for us. We so appreciate your candidness, and it's so obvious that love undergirds everything that you do, and that's a lesson for all of us. You know, we really, you know, I would love to be able to stay in this space and talk to you forever and ever, but we have to give the participants a little bit of opportunity.
Indeed.
So we're going to
We
ask
thank Brother
them.
Kevin. We thank Brother Kevin. Brother Kevin's doing his wonderful thing.
Thank you, Kim.
So we're going to open this up now for our participants. So if you're interested in speaking, if you can just use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of the Zoom window, we will ask you to turn on your microphone and your camera and ask your question. So as you contemplate your questions, we have a special performance. Well, before that, we have a special guest we want to bring up. So can we bring up Dr. Parham, the president of California State University, Dominguez Hills, to say a word to his brother.
Brother President Parham. Yo, brother, I'm giving you a hug, man. You know that. I'm giving you a hug, man.
My brother, virtual hug.
My brother.
First of all, let me say a big thanks to my colleagues there at California State University, Northridge, who have always been in that struggle, and to one of the most sincere and righteous brothers who manages the student affairs enterprise there, Dr. William Watkins, who took care of my and your baby Cornel Parham while she was there.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
and
did.
To Deborah Hammond and to Dr. Teresa White and Africana Studies, we thank you for that. I just can't believe how full I am in the moment, because I'm flashing back now, not only when you opened that Performing Arts Center, when Kenya was legislative assistant to Jolene Kessler back then, but I'm also flashing back to when you and I were in my office at UC Irvine, and we were vibing to Brenda Lee Eager and Jerry Butler, Ain't Understanding Mellow.
Ain't Understanding Mellow.
Understanding Mellow was strong on that. But
we
my
tell our young
question-
folks, listen to that song tonight. Listen to Ain't Understanding Mellow, Jerry Butler and our sister tonight. That's true.
And I don't ever go anywhere. I want y'all to know I have to give my brother this love too. Lots of you know, and I appreciate all of your well wishes, that I had a cancer struggle. And what got me through that was my brother Cornel West here, who reminds me, even in my own clinical work as a psychologist, in an African-centered one at that, very unapologetic, that you should never allow misery to have the last word. And that was my theme in navigating that particular space. So not only have this brother and I just loving on each other for years, but I want him to know that was my theme and my mantra in going through all the months and months of chemotherapy. And now, by the grace of God and the ancestors who look out for us, we're sitting on the planet right now. But so know that I got nothing but love for you, brother, and I appreciate it. And I celebrate all my colleagues there at Cal State Northridge. But I got a question for you to just answer the people. You know, my favorite essay you have always done goes back to Race Matters, because, you know, I read everything you write. And the chapter on Black strivings in a twilight civilization, right, was a profound essay that you wrote. And it reminds me of what the poet and musician Gil Scott-Heron wrote about when he talked about winter in America.
Oh, absolutely.
So in this post-pandemic era, I think, so I want to pick up on Sister White's reference to this post-pandemic era. What do Black strivings look like, given this twilight civilization that we are in now? And what kind of message can we send to both the student staff and the faculty at Cal State University Northridge and my own beloved Cal State University Dominguez Hills and the entire CSU system about what we ought to do in terms of struggle for equality in that space?
Lord, the deep question, like always, coming out of my brother. But it's just a blessing to set eyes on you, man. It really is. That I've always argued that the fundamental challenges for Black folk when the first dignified Africans stepped off of that barbaric slave ship headed toward the slave auction would be, how do we generate self-love, self-respect, self-confidence, and eliminate poverty? Those two. You get your soul and mind together, and then collectively, you try to undermine the conditions so that our people don't have enough food, don't have enough housing, education, jobs with a living wage, and so forth. And so today the question becomes even more intense because we're living in an empire that is undergoing profound spiritual decay. It's survival of the slickest. It's obsession with money, obsession with celebrity. And if our people, if Black people get caught into viewing life as a gold rush, you're gonna end up worshiping a golden calf. We need money. We must have power. Absolutely. No doubt, in order to abolish poverty. But if we lose our spirit, we lose our morality to get it, we lose our spirituality to get it, then you can have the biggest mansion in the world and still be empty and vacuous in your soul and not even know how to love any longer. Don't know how to be vulnerable. Don't know how to be intimate. And that's the worst thing. That's like Hamlet on steroids because he suffered from the incapacity to love. Shakespeare taught us that. We can learn much from our British brother Shakespeare in that regard. Dostoevsky too. He said, hell is those who suffer from the incapacity to love. We come from a tradition where we put a priority on cultivating the capacity to love, because if we didn't cultivate that, none of us would be here. You see what I mean? Brother Kevin probably wouldn't be here either way, but he's our loving brother on the vanilla side of town, but he probably wouldn't be here either. Because if we hadn't cultivated that, there'd have been a civil war every generation. And if it's Civil War of a generation, America would have gone fascist a long time ago, just like America still might go fascist. We just don't know. We almost did with Trump. You see, so that when I was writing that essay, that's what I had in mind, in the ways in which Black people, the Black freedom struggle, being the leaven in the American democratic loaf. And if we don't be, if we're not strong in our hearts, minds, and souls, then the loaf gets stale, stale, stale. And then next thing you know, it's just the rule of gangsterism. You see what I mean? And gangsters come in all colors.
Indeed.
But love you, brother Barham, though. Oh, man. See you and Brother Watkins at the same time makes me want to break dance and make MC Hammer look like a Boy Scout.
That was fabulous. Thank you both for the question and the camaraderie, the love. It's so evident, you know. I mean, I think it's inspiring to all of us. So thank you for coming on and sharing that. And woo, that's all I can say. I have to wrap that up.
Remember now, we're going with the spirit, so don't worry about the time or the mechanical time of the clock and things. We go by the spirit, so we'll stay as long as you like. We here to serve the people.
Then.
We here to answer the questions of the
Okay.
precious young folks. So don't worry about this hard time that they talk about these days. We just let it flow. Let it flow.
All righty. Well, we're gonna have a short break. And when I say a break, I mean a performance. Spoken word performance.
Beautiful.
Sheba Jennings. Sheba is a graduating senior entrepreneurship major at Hampton University. And when my mama went there, it was Hampton Institute. So it was a long time ago. So happy to see you. She's from Rialto, California. She's a wordsmith, a poet, and a writer. And she fuses her passion for entertainment with her passion for education and political consciousness and involvement, to create a work of art that is not only captivating, but also a call to action. So Sheba, we're gonna give it over to you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. My name is Sheba Jennings. I first want to say thank you to Olani and Rocky and CSUN BSU and USU for this opportunity and to be in the same space as Dr. Cornel West. So with that being said, I'm going to perform a spoken word piece. It's a call to action piece, and I hope it does exactly that, move you to action. Testy, testy, 1, 2, 3. What is a poet MC? It's the one that is truth-telling, soul-searching, and witness-bearing, one that keeps on keeping on, and one that takes advantages of the opportunities we've been sleeping on. Our job is to give our people hope. But let's not forget about my rope with dope quotes that go poke right at a hater's throats. We must be on overdrive in our drive for greatness. Can't work with laziness. Procrastination, that's a sickness. See, we are building something in our schools and we need workers, not just eyewitnesses. We have to be about our business. Parents must be a part of the system. If we see something broke, we must come together and fix it. See, transformation is about going that extra distance. Sometimes the children must finish it. See, y'all don't want this mic right after I just ripped it. And even on motivational, we can flip it. See, and you are mandated for success. And in the end, listen to the rhythm of the drums that are composed on the downbeat of these rapid fire, sinister sniper snare trees, or these sugar-coated quotes resting in my lungs. See, we are the ones that make our own drums. We don't need no snares, no sticks, no harnesses, just our fists and the floor. And we're broke rich, we practice our beats until we're strong enough to knock down closed doors. See, I refuse to be ignored. Hook up a microphone to my chest, and even when I'm at rest, see, I'm better than the best audio system because I got 400 years of resistant to oppressing beats ready to be unlocked in my core. Don't snore, don't sleep. Just keep your mind fresh and still. This is for Manisha. This is for Gil. This is for Emmett Till. And that's why this miraculous calculus comes off like Old Testament penmanship. And your great-great-grandchildren be able to eat from the fruits and use the legacy tools that your hands have farmed with. And even if the 300 Spartans who fought back the Persians merged with kryptonite, see, they wouldn't be able to touch you because you feed off your passion and let your faith fight. Let your goals feed your soul and ignore the material hype. Genesis early synthesis says, let there be light. So tweak it and speak your truth into your existence. You will find that life is connected with every word. So with a verb, you can make lightning strike even on a dry night, but you should know that life It's just preparation for something just a little bit more majestic. And because we speak techniques that are a little bit more expressive, society chooses to repress us, but read my lips. Every oppressor since the dawn of time has fallen when a group of committed people begin to walk in unity and quit crawling. Thank you.
My God,
Wow.
my dear sister. Woo. You are touched by a power greater than you and I. I can tell you that right now.
Bravo.
Oh, that's so powerful. It's
Absolutely.
profound. It's as if you and I designed this together so we could interweave all of the themes and the motifs. Did you notice that?
Mm.
I did actually, when I was
It's-
listening to what you were saying and in connection to my piece, yes.
It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Oh, you honor me. You honor all of us, my dear sister.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cornel West.
Magnificent. Magnificent.
Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sheba. That was
Sister
absolutely powerful. It was
Ooh, that's
definitely, you
powerful.
talk about transformational, actually calling to action individually, everybody. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that with
Oh,
us.
so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Mm, mm, mm.
That was excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Just superb. Powerful.
Wow.
Okay. So now we're going to welcome our second participant. Our first participant was Dr. Parham. So as I'm going to say to the participants, as you ask your questions, please be mindful of the time and limit your questions to 30 seconds. So we can go ahead and get started. Our first participant is Obani Lebode. She is the president of the Black Student Union.
Hi, everyone. Are we doing cameras?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. We actually had a wonderful session, student session with Dr. Cornel West, where we were able to ask a few of our own questions. Also, I put in the chat Sheba's information. You know, if y'all want to go check out some more of her lyricism, you can click that link. As for my question, in your lifetime, what are some of the barriers that you have faced advocating for equality and the advancement of the Black community? And what is your advice for others who are also involved in this work?
Well, I want to salute my dear sister president, President Olani. Absolutely. What would be the major barriers? I mean, one is I've always got to fight with myself to try to make sure that the best that is inside of me is most manifest. And that's a spiritual battle. And then there's a political battle of persons who will try to misunderstand and misconstrue what you're doing in order to dampen your fire and in order to erode the sources of your own self-confidence. And this is that's one of the functions of white supremacy. It's psychic as well as has political consequences. It's in the structures, it's in the institutions, and sometimes it's person to person, sometimes it's interpersonal. So those would be the crucial ones. But the bottom line, the crucial thing to keep in mind, my dear sister president, is it doesn't triumph. You see, what comes at one does not triumph. You see, Sterling Brown and Maya Angelou say, we just keep coming anyway. Anyway, against the grain, in spite of whatever it takes, we just keep coming anyway. So all the talk about the obstacles and the impediments, still, as Brother Parham said, they don't have the last word. Something else has the last word. That's what struggle is about. That's what the love is about. That's what the justice is about. That's what the freedom is about.
Absolutely. All right. Do we have our next participant, Kagan Cantrell?
Hi there. How are you folks doing today? How you doing, Dr. West?
How you doing there? Oh, there's my dear brother. Got his brim on. You got your brim on, looking sharp.
I'm doing better than I deserve. Thank you so much.
That's beautiful.
All right then. My question for you is, I know you're an admirer of the great Anton Chekhov, and I know in a podcast that you had with Joe Rogan, you recommended that he read the short story of The Student.
Yeah.
that story is something that's being an admirer of Chekhov as well. It's something that's resonated with me. So given the kind of the gaze of that story, how would you say, you know, for my generation that might not be super well versed in our past history, especially given our Black history, how do we use that history, you know, to promote hope for the future and, you know, given the calamity of our world?
Appreciate that, my brother. Very much so. No, Chekhov for me, actually, I'm more than even an admirer, though, brother. Chekhov is my soulmate, man. You know what I mean? He's deep inside of me. It's like Coltrane. It's like Curtis Mayfield. It's like Nina Simone. You see, so the admirer shows a little distance, almost like a spectator. No, they're constitutive of who I am. You see what I mean? Now, what is it about Chekhov? Well, of course, he comes out of the greatest novelistic tradition in the modern world, which is Russia. Basically, legacy of coming to terms with slavery and the ways in which they have to look unflinchingly at their misery and somehow still persevere and still endure. And what Chekhov was able to do, Chekhov's grandfather was a slave. His father had to pay for his father to get out of slavery. So he never he got caught within the ruling class of Russia with all of its arrogance and all of its haughtiness and condescension and entitlement and so forth. He remained with his feet on the ground. He's a medical doctor, so he's giving free services to the poor during the day, and he's writing at night. So he writes all those stories. Seagull, Uncle Vanya, Cherry Orchard, the greatest play, the three sisters, the plays, all at night, man. You think like, wow, he's coughing up blood at 28. He's dead at 44. It's like Coltrane dead at 40. I lived 3 lifetimes in 1 lifetime. Chekhov, how'd you get that done? Coltrane, how'd you create all that music? I had work I had to do. Keep so busy serving the people, ain't got time to die. Somewhere I heard spirituals. Chekhov, but Chekhov is not a Christian. He couldn't accept Christianity. He would go to church and he'd look, see the Eucharist and the Passions. He said, it's too beautiful to be true. So he's moved by the love, but he couldn't accept the Christian conclusions. You see, so there's more love in Chekhov than in many Christian churches, but he couldn't accept the Christian faith and belief. You see, so I hold on as a revolutionary Christian, but Chekhov is my soulmate because he's a love warrior at the deepest level in a country that has been plagued by the legacy of vicious slavery. 90% of the population of Russia was slaves when he was born. The United States had 4 million. They had more than 200% more than that. But he held on to love and the compassion. And so in that short story, what do you see? The 3 dimensions of time, right? Past, present, you remember that moment? In the future, they all come together. And he realizes, just like Sankofa, you can't move forward unless you connect it with the best of that past. And when you confront the present, it's just like Black performance. What does Black performance do that August Wilson taught us, that Lorraine Hansberry taught us? Every Black performance authorizes an alternative reality. It takes somebody somewhere else. We were talking about Zoom by the Commodores, which is the anthem of my brothers in prison. I like to fly away. Well, I like to fly away. Well, I like to fly away. Zoom, zoom, baby. Take somebody somewhere else. Sunbro used to start every concert. Black people tried everything possible. Tonight, we're going to try the impossible. Come with me on the mothership. George Clinton picked it up too, didn't he? Bootsy picks it up. We're going to take you somewhere else. You can see the world through a different lens than this nightmarish reality. That's what Chekhov is dealing with in that short story. But it's Russian style. Now, you know, he ain't got the funk the way we do. That's all right. Chekhov, you do your Russian thing. We're going to do our Black thing. But we meet at a human level. And Chekhov becomes very important because most people are afraid of catastrophe. And in America, of course, Americans view themselves as innocent. Peter Pan, Disneyland, never grow up. grow powerful, grow rich, never grow up. And what they don't understand is catastrophes on its way to their house. And when it gets there and they're not prepared, they're not ready, they are shattered. And what is it about the blues? On intimate terms with catastrophe all the time. Blues ain't nothing but a personal narrative of catastrophe lyrically expressed. Nobody loves me but my mama. She might be jiving too. That's BB. He's the king of the blues. That's catastrophe. Nobody loving you in the world. So in that way, Chekhov is on intimate terms with catastrophe. You see the overlap? That's the crucial thing.
Thank you so much, Dr. West, for that really thoughtful response. Really appreciate it. We have so many people that want to speak with you in this space, so we're going to go ahead and pivot to our next participant.
Absolutely. We're going to take our time, though. We're in no rush. We're in no rush.
All right, that sounds good. So our next participant is Professor Tantalia Mercer. She's a professor actually in the Africana Studies Department. She's a scholar of political science.
Beautiful.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so grateful and thankful to be in this space speaking with you, Dr. West. So, and your words are like a healing. They're like a balm. They're like an oil. They're like just a beautiful energy. So we appreciate that. And you keep mentioning love, and you put love into everything that you're asking about and talking about, and from warfare to spirituality. And how is it that where we are today, and I've mentioned this many, many times in our classes, in my class specifically, because students ask me, well, how is it that leaders before us, like Malcolm and Marcus and MLK, with their ideologies and the way that they move throughout the world, and how they have been able to make strides, and how they were able to have a fellowship and a leader and a leading and a following, and we're able to actually have influence. And I feel like today we're missing that. We are missing leadership for African-American people in our agenda and the things that we want to see move forward. So what would you say, because you keep mentioning love, and I understand that, it really is about the power of love and less about the love of power, right? And so what is it that we need? What is it that we need? What do our leaders today need to embody in an effort to be able to take our agenda forward so that we can continue to make strides like we made strides after, the Reconstruction era, before then, from enslavement, because I don't use the word slavery, enslavement through today. What is it that we need? What should we be embodying besides love and empathy? What are some of those qualities that our other leaders had that they need to show up in us, because we need leaders?
Ooh, that's such a crucial question. My dear sister, Professor Mercer, Northridge is blessed to have you. I can tell you that. Well, you keep in mind, my dear sister, that when I say love, I'm talking about love of truth.
Okay.
See, America's been in denial of the truth about itself. It has a weak will to truth. I'm talking about love of beauty. You see, and there is no beauty that doesn't confront terror and trauma. That's where it comes from. You see, you know what I mean? I'm talking about love of goodness.
Right.
I'm talking about if you're religious or you're a Muslim or follow Judaism, it's love of God. You see, so once you lay those standards out, then it embraces all of us, which means then we end up with leaders who don't have a deep enough love of truth. They have love of status. They have love of the operations within their parties.
Right.
They have love of the reproduction of their position. See, and what has happened is there was a major shift in the Black freedom movement. Once finally American apartheid was shattered legally, it was never been shattered practically yet. But when it was shattered legally, people began to look for our leaders in the political realm.
Right.
Now, how many politicians do any of us know of any color who have a profound love of truth? That's not what they're into. That's not what they're into. How many of them have love of beauty? That's why most can't inspire nobody. Can't inspire nobody. Can't move a paper bag. You know what I mean? Love of goodness. I mean, and now some of them are decent. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? My dear brother Mark Riley Thomas, I take a bullet for that brother. We've been together for 45 years. When he decided to become a politician, he decided to keep me honest, because I'm out here running my mouth, talking about visions and dreams. And I decided to keep him honest because he's in the electoral political system, right? So we learn from each other. But if all we have are the politicians as the source of our Black leadership, we're in a world of trouble. We're in a world of trouble. They have a role to play because we need insiders, but we need insiders with integrity so they won't get sold out with the big money. They won't become so so seduced by status and so forth.
Right, right.
So when we look at our past, we've had leaders who really, with that love of truth, love of justice, love of goodness, love the people.
Right.
Love the people. And loving the people means what? Protect, respect, correct. Everybody talking about speaking truth to power, speaking truth to power. That's only one side of it. You got to speak truth to the relatively powerless. You see, you got to tell poor people the truth. You got to tell Black people the truth.
Right.
But if you're a politician, you want to be popular. If you love the people, you speak out of integrity. When I go to Black churches, I say, look, I'm not here to try to say something to you all will love me. I love Black people because Black people are worthy of being loved. No matter what they think, no matter what they do. And I tell Black folk, y'all can do almost anything, but I'm gonna keep loving you anyway. Now you talk about my mama, you're pushing me pretty far. Now, I know, you know, I ain't no saint that thing, and I come out swinging. But other than that, there's nothing Black people can do for me to stop loving them. Which means I'm gonna keep telling the truth. I'm gonna keep protecting, respecting, and correcting, just like our parents did to us at their highest level.
Right.
Right? They protected us, they respected us, and child, if you keep doing that, you're gonna get some tough love coming your way. That's what we learned from Malcolm. That's what we learned from Mark. That's what we learned, the names that I was talking about, Fannie Lou. We can go on and on and on. Anna Julia Cooper. Oh, absolutely. Mary McLeod Bethune. They speaking the truth to Black people. So they speaking out of integrity, not for popularity. Popularity is thin. It comes and goes, you know. You see what I'm saying? That's what the crucial thing is. We don't have an, but we are getting more in the younger generation. We are. We really are.
Well, I appreciate you. I thank you. I thank you, and thank you so much for your energy. Thank you. Protect you.
Thank you, and I salute you in the work you're doing. I'll tell you that. Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Professor Mercer.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And now we have our next Brittany Green. And Brittany is a MSW, Masters in Social Work. And she has a question.
Hi, Dr. West. It's so nice to see you. I saw you 10 years ago when you were at CSUN. I was just a mere sophomore, and now I'm a graduate student. So it's really
beautiful, nice. Beautiful.
It's an honor. My question has to do with more, in social work, we talk about micro, meso, and macro. So looking at the meso, when we discuss Black battle or racial battle fatigue or any other issue that affects marginalized groups, we often talk about how people affected can cope, and also how allies can assist in supporting those affected. However, how can higher education institutions such as CSUN take responsibility in fostering a safe environment for students? And also, how should these institutions actively show support in reducing the possibilities of Black and Brown students, faculty, and staff from experiencing racial battle fatigue in the university environment?
Thank you so much. It's so good seeing you again 10 years later. I see you strong as ever. Strong as ever. See, I think that one of the things I was trying to do briefly today was to accent what sources and resources that keep our vitality and vibrancy in place. So anytime you talk about fatigue, you want to know what is the best Black response to it? What's the best human response to it? What do we have available to us that can forever fortify us and fortify us so we can fructify? And fructify is generating the fruit, generating the deeds, generating the scholarship, generating the words. We saw a great poet here, generating poetic expression. You see, we say, well, oh, what goes into that? We see, that's the crucial questions. A lot of people say, oh, that's spirituality, that's ephemeral stuff. No, 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 no. Those are the intangible things that no human being can make it from womb to tomb without. And so the institution has to say, okay, now we got these precious Black folk. They're sharp, they're ready for education. What can we do to cultivate the wind at their back? Spiritually, intellectually, morally, structurally, institutionally, micro-socially, macro-socially, and so forth. So that the students themselves are going to let us know. That's why they form Black Student Association. You see, that's not anti-white. It's pro-human. There's not enough on the white side of town that's going to preserve my sanity. I got a right to sanity. That's what we had in college in 1970 when we got to college. We got here and looked around and said, it's nice. And we met some wonderful white brothers and sisters, but it was clear that if all we had was on what was on the vanilla side of town, we were going to go crazy. We got a right not to go crazy, but oh, y'all shouldn't, hey, we got a right not go insane. This driving us crazy. So what do? We found the Black Student Union. We had a community. We had strong bonds of memory. We had strong tides of empathy. So if somebody feeling down and out, we could call, and you have a certain cultural backdrop that was common enough so we could cultivate our resources so we wouldn't go crazy. That's what the university has to do. But it's not just for Black students, it's true for our precious brown too. Everybody, this is a human thing, you see. But if you just assume this kind of abstract, homogenous thing, everybody's the same. No, that's not the truth. People got different histories. When our indigenous brothers and sisters come to college, they need to have context in which they have access to their resources so that we don't drive them crazy. And by we, I'm talking about Americans of whatever color. Because, at the very beginning, we acknowledge whose land we own and so forth. And the same is true. The Catholics ought to have it. The Jews ought to have it. The whoever, Poles, whatever it is, people need resources they fall back on. Now, they're not confined by those resources. We're not talking about Black folk come in and only talk to Black people, only spend time with Black. No, not at all. Not at all. But when we do meet Black folk, we got to be fortified. You see what I mean? And so the university needs to think creatively. How can we ensure that our students flower and flourish in light of the various spiritual, moral, intellectual, institutional resources available to them? So when they march, graduation day, they got a smile on their face, and they've learned how to die in order to learn how to live by critically examining themselves, so that something mature and critical and compassionate can come forth out of their souls and hearts and minds and bodies. And that's what deep education, not cheap schooling. We're not talking about cheap schooling. Northridge is not about cheap schooling. That's just about skills and information. We're talking about deep education, what the Greeks call paideia. That's critical consciousness transformation in order to be stronger forces for good, you see.
All right.
Very helpful. Thank you so much. I plan on incorporating that into my advocacy for sure.
Oh, they blessed to have you there at Northridge. You're a graduate student now, you say, huh?
I am, yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you, Dr. West.
Thank you, Brittany. We appreciate you. She's an ally for Africana Studies, so she's.
Oh, that's magnificent. Magnificent.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to pivot to our next guest, and that's Rocky Holloway. She is the president of the Black Student Leadership Council here at CSUN.
Hi, Dr. West.
Oh, is that Sister Raquel?
Raquel, yes, sir.
Raquel, that's Sister Raquel. Oh, I remember. Good to see you.
Hey, Rocky.
Okay. Well, I feel like a lot of the questions you kind of shed light on my question, but I'm just gonna ask it anyways.
Sure.
So mine is, what is your take on this generation's way of reforming the system, and what are some similarities or differences? And you can be honest, keep it real. They can be good or bad, but what are the similarities and differences that you see between the revolutionaries of your time and of today?
Oh, appreciate that question. Indeed, indeed. Well, one thing you want to keep in mind that just like love, Bob Marley talking about one love, but we know love is many. It's many. It takes a lot of different forms, different manifestations. The struggle for justice has a common denominator as one, but it's many. In Black history, we've always had a variety of different voices and strategies and tactics, and we always will. We always will. You see that we're not looking for unanimity. We're looking for solidarity with a variety of voices. It's like a jazz orchestra. It's not a military band. It's a jazz orchestra. Everybody bring their voice. And so the younger generation would never have one main strategy, right? Y'all got a whole lot of different strategies. My generation had a whole lot of different strategies, you see, because we all have our different voices. I mean, the Black Panther Party loved Martin Luther King Jr. They just disagreed on nonviolence. They still had his picture on the wall. How come? Because he loved them. They knew it. Huey knew that Martin loved him. Angela knew that Martin loved her. She's a communist. Martin wasn't a communist. So they had that one love, but it was manifest in a lot of different ways. And as long as we have that one and many work, but you got to have the love, though. You got to have the commitment. You got to have the concern. You got to have the care. That's the crucial thing. But it's going to be manifest so many different ways. Thurgood Marshall, he didn't believe in street activity. He disagreed with Martin so intensely, but he knew Martin was for real. Martin disagreed with Thurgood. You can't do it just in the courts, brother Thurgood. Charles Hamilton Houston should have taught you that. He was in the streets and in the legal context. Thurgood said, no, it's just in the courts. It's just in the court. Thurgood, we love you, brother. You stay in the courts. We're going to hit the streets too. Hey, that's the greatness of a people. We jazz like. You know what I mean? We jazz like Wayne Shorter ain't going to sound like Train. Jerry Allen not going to sound just like Mary Lou Williams. They going to build and find their voices. Younger generation, the same thing. Hit the streets, go to jail, hit the courts, hit higher education with integrity. Northridge, you understand what we talking about because we know the students are there. You know the professors are there. But keep in mind, only 31% of Americans ever go to college. So most of our brothers and sisters of all colors, but especially Black and brown, they're not at Northridge and other places. They got tremendous intelligence. They got tremendous imagination. Got tremendous courage. Curtis Mayfield dropped out of school in the 8th grade. He wrote "I'm So Proud" when he was 15. Gypsy Woman when he was 16. We a Winner when he 21. You know Curtis Mayfield, my dear sister. You gonna listen to some Curtis tonight if you don't now. Now that's not, I mean, I'm not being coercive. That's just a suggestion. That's just a suggestion.
I got some homework, huh?
Absolutely. You listen to some Curtis Mayfield. And I use Curtis Mayfield as an example. We could talk Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong come from the streets. He got a genius beyond professors that we don't even have a language for. You see what I mean? So that even in talking about the different strategies and tactics, we have to understand it's always a plethora of voices. And they come from PhDs like Du Bois. They come from Fannie Lou Hamer, Mississippi. Unbelievable wisdom, love, courage. We have to be open to all of that. So we're not anti-college, but we don't think college has a monopoly on all the good stuff. We're not anti-street, but we know there's folk on the block. They got some crucial things to say. There's folk on the block that need reform. There's folk in the college got some crucial things to say. there's folk in college who need some reform. James Baldwin never went to college. A college went through him. See, so when you graduate from Northridge, you would have gone through a college, but the test is, did the college go through you? All your teachers, all that insight, all that wisdom, and then you become more fortified to raise your voice in the anthem of Black, raising your voice in that way. You see the point I'm making? And so all these different voices are not to be contained or canceled and all that mess. No, not at all. But you got to have a common denominator. And that's what we've been talking about today. That love of truth and goodness and beauty, and if for those who are religious, love of God. Some of the folk who are atheistic and agnostic, like my dear brother Mary Baraka, I'd take a bullet for that brother. But he was a radical, secular, atheistic brother, but he grew up in Bethany Baptist Church, and his father, Old Man Jones, was a deacon for 51 years. And his grandmother was the founder of the first Black gospel choir, along with Sarah Vaughn's mama from Mount Zion Baptist Church. So no matter how atheistic Baraka was, I always used to play with him all the time. But brother, I can see Bethany Baptist operating inside of you, even though you are a secular atheist. Because he was still shaped by what happened in Bethany Baptist Church. So as an atheist, he had tremendous courage, tremendous vision. He's a genius. He's a literary genius too. He wasn't right about everything. Nobody's right about everything, but he was a genius. But we have to be open to voices no matter where they come from. Secular bell hooks, Buddhist. Shaped by Baptist background, a Buddhist. Bell hooks got a whole lot to say. Now, you know bell hooks. I know you've been reading some bell hooks now. Ooh, you read some bell hooks while you listening to Curtis Mayfield at night. You're going to start break dancing all by yourself. Oh, yes. I'm telling you, my dear sister Raquel. I salute you. I salute you now. I salute you.
Thank you so much. And I was even telling Dr. West in the previous portion that I just want to thank you for your passion. You really are inspiring so many of us right now. And I was letting them know, like, you got me fired up. Like, I'm ready to go march or something. So if you see me on the street, Dr. West sent me, all right?
Thank you, Rocky.
Indeed. Salute you, my dear sister.
All right, we have another guest, and that is Nakia McWilliams, and she is a staff member in the Matador Involvement Center.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Nakia.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. To ask you of all people this question as an admirer. How do you think we can even begin to eliminate white supremacy in institutions when it is so highly worshipped within communities of color, particularly when many of our assigned leaders make it into their positions of power using white supremacy and often promote oppressive practices themselves?
Ooh, deep question, my dear sister Nakia. Indeed. I mean, there's no doubt that when we talk about white supremacy, we go back to Brother Thomas Barham and Professor Johnson, his teacher, towering figure, Wade Noble's towering figure in Black psychology, that Black people have to come to terms with the white supremacy inside of us, inside of our minds and hearts and souls, because it's impossible to grow up in a civilization so deeply rooted in white supremacy without every person being affected, no matter what color they are, you see. And how do you extricate that? Well, one, you have to first acknowledge that it's there. You can't be in denial. None of us can be in denial. The second thing is that you have to be influenced by voices who taught us that and came up with ways of trying to convince us how to extricate it. That's why Marcus Garvey is very important. That's why Amy Garvey is very important, you see. Certain Black nationalists and the Black nationalist traditions have always been concerned about that issue. Some people only want to talk about politics when they talk about Black people. Well, no, you're missing something. You got to talk about the psyche, the mentality. And then when you fight against the white supremacy inside of you, you're going to need friends. Can't do it by yourself. You got to be part of an organization. You got to be part of a community, part of a network, part of a matrix or something, you see. And then you attempt to highlight how it operates in the institutions and structures in which you find yourself. And it could be in the Black community. We were talking about the church, you know, when I was making that joke about Jesus being Michelangelo's uncle in Portrait, the Italian. Well, see, that's a white image that can reinforce white supremacy. When you're looking at a Jesus that historically is not the case, and let alone wanting to identify a certain power with whiteness, that needs to be struggled with, you see. So that each one of those levels, that extrication that you're talking about, we have to be honest, we have to be candid, and it is a long and prolonged process. Because a lot of people, you know, they just want to wake up, oh, I'm woke on Monday and I'm ready for liberation on Friday. No, it doesn't work like that. I tell my young folk all the time, Brother West, I'm woke, I'ma stay woke. I say, no, you stay woke, you're gonna suffer from insomnia. You're gonna have to learn how to sleep and when to sleep, take a nap. You gotta be a long distance runner. Nobody stay woke forever. You know what I mean? You gotta pace yourself. You got to learn how over the long run to be a freedom fighter. See? So it is with extricating that white supremacy. That's a process. So you read those figures, you see. Nikki Giovanni, how did you do it? Gwendolyn Brooks, how did you do it, Gwendolyn? How did you make that shift when you gave up all of that status in the white establishment when they tried to make you the darling of the white establishment, and you go with Haki Mahabute, you go with the Black Arts Movement as a 50-year-old woman after you encountered them in 1967 at Fisk University. What's going inside of your genius mind, Gwendolyn? Teach us something. Read this poem. Read this report one. Look at me give this reflection. That's why I made this choice. It's a historic choice. And I'm just using one great giant of Gwendolyn Brooks as an example. You see what I mean? She could have gone on and on and on and been the top-notch so-and-so, you know, the black hope for the white establishment because she's a genius. And she said, no, I ain't got nothing against white folk, but I sure love these Black people. And I'm going with these Black young folk. I don't understand everything about these Black young folk. Haki, you teach me some things. I'm 15, you 21. We got different sensibilities. You know, you listening to the last poets, they cussing all the time. I'm not really into that much profanity. I come out of the Methodist church. But okay, Haki, I'm still learning from you. And Haki, of course, became one of her mentorees. And they rose together. Why? Trying to be honest about extricating that white supremacy that you're talking about. So we learn from those in the past.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nakia. Okay, Dr. West. So we are now going to ask our last participant of the evening to ask their questions. And we're going to invite Dr. Michelle Best, who is the chair of Recreation, Tour, and Tourism Management here at CSUN, to come to the Zoom room.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. West, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us at CSUN and with our other guests and blessing us with your wisdom and knowledge. Along the concept of walking the tightrope, I recall reading that Dr. King at one point spent some time in Jamaica in an effort to restore himself. And oftentimes the relationship between Black America and Caribbean nations is overlooked. So I'm wondering if you could address this relationship in the context of the civil rights movement in the US and how you see that relationship going forward as this struggle for civil rights continues within the US and within other countries around the world.
Ooh, what a powerful question. Ooh, we started on high notes and looked like we ended on high notes and had so many high. My dear sister, come back so we can see each other. Well, there you are. We want to see your beautiful face. We want to see your beautiful face. Lord, no, but it's always so nice nice to go eye to eye like that. You know what I mean? But one is that we have to begin with certain stubborn facts, certain undeniable truths, that there is no Black freedom struggle in the United States in which Caribbean brothers and sisters have not played a very crucial role. It's just impossible. You can't think of SNCC without Stokely Carmichael.
That's correct.
Straight out of Trinidad. Malcolm's mama, Grenada. Shirley Chisholm. We can go on and on. We can go on and on. You know, it's Barbados, Jamaica, and of course it's true for Puerto Rico too. Sammy Davis Jr., his mom was Puerto Rican. I mean, we can go on and on. So there's always been an openness. There's always been a variety of different kinds of Black people in the Black freedom struggle. Harry Belafonte. Ooh, we just this week, we just sent up a major video for him. He turns 94 years old, March the 1st. That's on Monday. He's my dear brother. I've known him for many years. We traveled the world together, you see. Sidney Poitier. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? That means then, let me give you another example. Jamaican. He wrote some of the most mellow, slow songs in the history of America for a group called the Delphonics. His name was Tom Bell. La 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 means I love you. We won't get into that right now. This thing's getting real slow dancing when you start talking about the Delphonics. But Tom Bell wrote all of those songs, straight out of Jamaica, Philly Sound, Gamble and Huff. So there's no way you can extricate the way in which Caribbeans and US Black folk are intertwined. Bob Marley hears Curtis Mayfield working in the DuPont plant and first has a group called Bob Marley and the Impressions. He's taken by Curtis's genius, and then he changed it into the Wailers when he and his mother go back from Delaware to Jamaica. So I'm just using examples like this to people, because a lot of people think you're just talking generalization. No, we got some concrete examples, you see. At the same time, we have to acknowledge that each of the particular histories of Black peoples are different, even as they overlap, you see. So that Garvey is looking at a people who are resisting a certain kind of British imperialism on that island. And his experiences are going to be different when he gets to New York. It's going to be very different, because British colonialism is going to go until 1960 in Jamaica. It ended in America in 1776. So when he gets to the United States, he says, these people still in bondage psychically and spiritually, but they're not colonized like my brothers and sisters in Jamaica are. Different kind of history, but similar too. So we had to be attuned to the specific distinctive features of each history. You can't homogenize. Oh, they all Black. They all know, oh, that's too abstract. They're beautifully Black in the Jamaican context, given their Jamaican histories, as they're in Brooklyn or Philadelphia or whatever it is, you see. And so I think what happens is that it's so easy for Black US peoples to look at Black brothers and sisters from the Caribbean through white supremacist lens. And it's easy for Black Caribbean peoples to look at we US Black folk through white supremacist lens. So there are a lot of Black folk who've been here for 12 generations, like my family, and they look at it, Jamaicans just been here maybe 2 generations or 3. Oh, they voluntary immigrants. Because they had slavery in Jamaica, they didn't have Jim Crow. See, Jim Crow was distinctively USA. So a lot of Black people look at US Black people look at Jamaica and say, well, they voluntary immigrants. We wasn't voluntary. That is true. And a lot of the voluntary immigrants from Jamaica look at US Black folk like me. And if they look at the white supremacist lens, They saying some of the things that other voluntary immigrants said about Black folk. When they gonna get their act together? Then they gonna have personal responsibility. We gonna pass them by because we hit the ground running. Because it's true, voluntary immigrants hit the ground running. They got opportunities. They ready to move quick. Whereas a lot of Black USA folks say, you know, we've been here 200 and some years. Some of us has opportunities, some of us don't. We're gonna be honest about both. And we are not, for the most part, voluntary immigrants. There is a difference. And we have to be attuned to those differences. What's the common ground? Solidarity. We got to have solidarity across the board, even given the distinctive features of whatever Caribbean country people are from, or if you go all the way back to Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, for 12 generations. Mine goes back to Louisiana. 12 generations, Jim Crow, slavery, all the way back, with all the rapes and violation and lynchings that constitute the history of Black people. And here we just keep on coming. Keep on coming. So to think of Black struggle without Malcolm X, without Garvey, impossible. Can't even think about jazz without Carmen McRae, can't you? From the Caribbean. And who's she singing to? Sarah Vaughan, her mentor. U.S. Black. You see how they intertwine so beautifully? That's what we need to highlight. I know I'm going on too long, but you see the point I'm making? Oh, indeed, indeed. But you stay strong, my dear sister.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Best and Dr. West.
Yeah,
So
thank
we
you.
said that was the last question, but you did say we were on spirit time, right?
We on spirit time. We go as long as you want somebody to feel the spirit overflowing. We shall continue. Let it flow. Let it flow.
Okay, so we do have another guest.
That's good.
And that's
good.
Dr. Karen Stanford. She's from the Africana Studies Department. She also works with the Bradley Center. So Karen, Dr. Stanford, if you can come on, that'd be great.
Hello, Dr. West.
Oh, we're looking for your lovely face. There you are. There you are. Good to see you.
Hey, Dr.
Good
Stanford.
to see you too. Thank you so much, Dr. Whiten and Hammond. So listen, Dr. West, you know, first of all, let me just say that I love the way you honor Black love and Black sacrifice. And so my, I guess, question or commentary is related to the fact that here we are in another Black History Month, obviously taking the time out to honor those people who have fought and sacrificed for us. And it's a nice opportunity to do that, even though people complain about it being 1 month out of the year, at least it's an opportunity for us to focus. But my concern is that I believe that we engage in respectability politics when it comes to Black History Month. So that oftentimes we honor those who are considered mainstream enough to honor. So that we honor the first who became trailblazers in corporate America, for instance. And I'm not saying we shouldn't honor them, but I am very concerned about the lack of recognition for those people who have fought, died, and sacrificed for us, who specifically engaged in the Black Power movement, those liberation politics. And these people are, many of them who are still alive, are still suffering today. They're languishing in prisons. I just spoke with Matulu Shakur, who's been in jail for 33 years. He did not commit any murders. Ruchelle McGee, who's been in jail for 50 years here in California, not convicted of murder. But it's almost as if they're being punished for engaging in those kinds of liberation politics. Assata Shakur, who's abroad, still in Cuba. And I'm just wondering, how do we get to the point to where we can at least acknowledge that they still exist and that they fought and sacrificed for our people, and that we need to say their names?
I am just so very glad that you raised that question. Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Yes, yes, yes.
H. Rat Brown, who is now Imam Al-Hamid Abdullah. I mean, we just put out a book, you know, his writing that I was blessed to write one of the essays on. You are absolutely right, Sundiata and so on. And in fact, I am to really standing inadequate in terms of not raising their names enough today. I talked about Sister Asada with the $2 billion
Right.
bounty on her head, but I mean, there's a whole wave of them. And one of the reasons why it's hard to talk about them is because, you see, in a white supremacist civilization, Black love is a crime.
Mm.
And Black hope is a joke. Black freedom is a pipe dream. And Black history is a curse. And that's what white supremacy tries to convince the world. So when you really love Black people, there's a very good chance you'll be criminalized. There's a very good chance you'll suffer character, if not literal assassination. And the brothers and sisters who you mentioned, the ones who were for real, they gave everything. I was talking about kenosis, just like James Brown on the stage. That's Fred Hampton. That's Bobby Hutton. That's Victoria Garver.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They gave everything, and their love was so deep that it's a crime. And when it's a crime, you get criminalized and incarcerated and tortured and lied on and overlooked and rendered invisible. Why is that? Because the repression of the Black freedom struggle, when those who are for real raise their voices and organize, is so intense for 400 years, with the execution of every slave who participated in the slave insurrection. You see, with the FBI surveillance on every major Black organization, on major artists. They got John Coltrane under FBI surveillance. He blowing his horn. But they know when he blew Love Supreme, that wasn't just entertainment. The genius loved Black people. So they knew that he was going to have an impact on the other love warriors. So the FBI had to keep track of Coltrane. They kept track of Nina Simone, tried to drive her crazy. You see what I mean? So that you are absolutely right that we can't sugarcoat any of this. Because anytime you really love a hated people, and that's what I kind of started with, talking about all this hatred coming at us and the love warriors, when you love a hated people, you got to get ready to be crucified. And yet we keep on coming anyway, my dear sister. That's what's so deep about it. Keep coming anyway. Now, granted, you know, I do believe that martyrdom cannot be normative for the Black freedom struggle. You can't be like Nat Turner, like, everybody join us, gonna get killed. Come on, Roosevelt. Come on, Jamal. Come on, Letitia. Let's fight and get killed. That can't be the norm. Somebody got to be willing to die. But we have to have division of labor. You see what I mean? So that we need professors at California State University, Northridge, who doing magnificent jobs and don't have to worry about bullets coming at them, or don't have to worry about dragged off to jail to be tortured. But they know that the Black love they have inside of them is on a continuum with Assata Shakur. It's just that she was willing to go to jail, be tortured. Thank God she got out of the nightmare and went to Cuba and so forth. See, but we have to be honest with our students in this regard, in terms of that's the history. That's the history. Malcolm was shot, FBI approval, voices within the Nation of Islam. Martin King murdered by more than just one white brother. Coordination. They knew what was going on. J. Edgar Hoover said, we will ensure there will never be a Black Messiah, and therefore this genius in Chicago named Fred Hampton, who had a vision that went beyond Jesse Jackson as a teenager, we gonna kill him. That's gangsterism. That's what white supremacy will do. Gangster activity against those who are love warriors and freedom fighters. So that's what you're accenting. And I'm so very glad that you pointed this out. And we don't want our young people to think that somehow we're asking that they just go out and get killed or murdered. But we are telling them that where you come from, There's been a people that in the face of being murdered, the face of being assassinated, that they kept going anyway. Some of them did have to die. Others were able to build on them. But if some of us are not willing to die, we don't have a movement. And the reason why people try to keep us so afraid and scared is they try to tell us the only option is incarceration, assassination. And we have to let the people know, no matter what, we still willing to raise our voices. We willing to put forward our words and our poetry, just like a young sister there at the inauguration the other day. I mean, she took it so high. By the time Biden got there, you know, that was like Gladys Knight versus Pat Boone. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, Sister Gorman had already took us there. Now we're going to get some nice little milquetoast neoliberal thing. We appreciate it. I voted for Biden against the neo-fascists, but I know what I was getting. And we so glad about Sister Harris. It's wonderful to have a Black sister from Jamaica and India and so forth and so on. Those symbols matter, but in the end, it will depend on their deeds. It will depend on their priorities. And if they continue to do the same thing in terms of militarizing the police, in terms of not speaking to the political prisoners who are there, or increasing the bounties on them, which is what happened under Obama administration, we got to tell the truth. How come you so hard on Obama? You ought to be ashamed of yourself, critical of the Black president. Well, let's talk about the tradition. What did Du Bois have to say? What did Fannie Lou have to say? This not me. Let's look at our tradition. What did they say about Black mayors? What did they say about Black elected officials? They try to tell the truth in the name of the people, especially the poor and working class, including the political prisoners. So thank you so very, very much in raising that, because our Black freedom movement is broad and wide.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And they're so blessed to have you there as professor, I can tell you that.
Well, Dr. West, I appreciate you. And I just want to say that we recognize that you've sacrificed a lot for this freedom struggle too. And although you don't ask, I believe we need to say your name.
Oh, well, I just say Professor Karen Stanford.
You know me. And Ashley Jackson. Oh, sitting here listening.
You wrote that classic in International Affairs and International Relations, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I'm giving you a hug, my sister. I'm just thinking about that. But I thought you went out to Palo Alto.
No, I'm here, but it's good to see you.
You right there in Northridge? Ooh,
Right here in
really
Northridge.
Blessed to have you. Because see, you dealing with empire issues. With international relations, you know, we don't have a lot of Black voices in international relations.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? So what you're doing is pioneering. What you have been doing is pioneering. But it just hit me now. I said, you know, that name sounds familiar, but I don't want to make sure that I get anything. But it's so good you pointed that out at the end. I'm giving you a hug, my dear sister.
Okay, well, good to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Stanford.
Thank you so much, Dr. White.
Thank you so very much.
Great questions, great responses. We really appreciate
That's
that.
the truth.
So, Dr. West, we're coming to the end of our program here this evening, and we have just a small challenge for you. Accept the challenge. So we just want to ask you a few very rapid fire questions. And we are going to ask if you can respond to those questions in no more than 4 words.
4 words. Ooh.
4 words. That's a challenge. That's a
I hope somebody's praying for me. Somebody start praying for me right now.
That's a challenge to see if you can meet the challenge, right? So this just gives us just a little bit more insight about you. So if you could name 2 thinkers that you admire most.
Toni Morrison, W.B. Du Bois.
Name 1 hero.
Cliff Irene West.
Name 1 shero.
Irene West.
What's your favorite word?
Love.
What's your least favorite word?
Cowardliness.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, sookie now. Now Lord, James Brown say we got to stay in the show now here. We got to stay in the show. Now, you remember that from There It Is by James Brown? Oh Lord, I'm staying in the show now. I love the way Black brothers and sisters tend to cuss melodically and musically of whatever one it is. But I'm not a cursing kind of brother, so I can't say it public. I've said it before, but I can't say it. I'm just not I'm not a cursing kind of brother. I ain't got nothing against it, but it's just not my thing. Okay. So that I just like whatever it is, it's got to be melodic and musical in one's expression, the way Richard Pryor used to do it. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. So what turns you off?
Arrogance.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Being a musician.
Excellent. Okay, last two questions. Best book read for coping, resiliency, peace, and encouragement.
James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time.
Okay, and finally, we had one of our guests, he couldn't stay. He says, Dr. West, when you were at CSUN 10 years ago, I remember that you recommended reading Chekhov and listening to Miles Davis. I did that, and I hope it helped make me a better person. This is Michael Neubauer. He's the president of our faculty senate. What would you recommend today?
I'd recommend John Coltrane's Love Supreme. I would recommend Aretha Franklin's Amazing Grace with a genius on the piano named James Cleveland. And I would recommend Dorothy Love Coates singing Holding On. She's one of the great artists and one of the great freedom fighters right out of Alabama. Dorothy Love Coates. You just hear her sing the 9-minute version of Holding On, and you're going to be fortified for the next week or two.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. We appreciate those responses. And you managed almost.
No, can you believe that I actually said short answer?
You did well.
Lord, but no. That's the kind of love and respect I have for you, though, Professor White and Sister Deborah Hammond. Because this is very rare that I could just have rapid fire like this without going on and on.
All right, so we want to thank you for this evening. I'm turn it over to my colleague, Deborah Hammond, to close out the evening.
So Dr. West, we are just honored. This has been such a profound experience, because it was not a presentation, it was truly an experience. And for all of us who were in the room or in the space or in the Zoom, we got so much more out of it than we even expected. And for you to come and share like this with us, I know our students were inspired. I mean, if you just read some of the things that are going on in the chat, it's just truly amazing. So we're gonna have to actually send that to you so you can just see some of that. But you're inspiring, and you talk about how much power we have, and but I think the most important thing for me is the aspect of love, because that is what everything is about. And you talk about it, your spirituality, that deep connection in terms of who you are and why you do the things you do. So as Dr. Stanford said, yeah, we need to say your name too. So we are saying your name right now in praise. So at this point, if anybody, you can do your reactions and all that other. So we just want to thank you profoundly for this experience, because it's been like no other.
I have been so thoroughly blessed and honored. And most importantly, we have had a good time dealing with such serious issues. But we all can leave feeling more determined. Brother Rice, we thank you and all of your service, your witness, the unbelievable contributions. We leave so much more fortified. Same is true with my dear sister, Dr. Paulette, and the others. We leave more fortified, and that's what we're here to do. You know, anytime you talk about the history, yes, it's academic, yes, it's intellectual, yes, it's cerebral, but those are not the only three sources that help Black people get over. You see, when your soul looks back and wonders how you got over, it's intellectual, yes, but it's also more than that. And we want our young people to know there ain't no shame in connecting intellectuality to spirituality. There's no shame in connecting integrity and morality to politics. That's what's helped get us through, and that's the only thing that will continue to get us through. And it's just been, for me, it's just been a wonderful time. It really has.
I just want to echo what Deborah said, and we just really appreciate you. You said so many powerful things, and so we certainly have a plethora of insight and wisdom that you shared, and the things that we can do to cultivate the wind being at our back. So just want to say thank you. And then sort of leaving off with that quote that you share with us is, never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. We will remember that. And so I just want to pivot over to my colleagues, Dr. Teresa Schechtel and Keith, who's going to close out the evening for us. So again, thank you. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
And we want to keep with that same spirit. Thank you so much. What a way to accentuate a month of celebrating National Black History Month here at CSUN. Oh boy, we're so excited. And thank you, Dr. Teresa White, and thank you, Ms. Deborah Hammond, for moderating today's program, and also to Ms. Sheba Jennings for her spoken word. And thanks to every one of you for your participation and active listening. You know, we came to this space today with great expectation. We certainly have benefited from this gathering. We have had our minds inspired, our spirits lifted, and our hearts encouraged towards commitment to do our part to bring about a better day for both our campus and surrounding community. We hope this is our collective resolve, and we certainly again want to thank Dr. Cornel West, and we appreciate that from the beginning you recognized our students, and you talked about how they had critical thinking in their questions and how they were able to be committed to what they're doing here, and in terms of helping them to develop their personal focus to do good. And we're so grateful that you were able to recognize that in our students. And we also appreciate that you told us to be sure to speak our truth, to speak love, to speak justice, to speak tenderness, to speak kindness. And we want to unabashedly be able to bring joy and greatness for our Black folk as well as everybody else. Dr. Cornel West, we salute you, we thank you, and we're thankful for you. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. It's been an enlightening experience for me. I'm going a little bit off script. I have never learned so much while laughing so hard. So much. We really appreciate you, Brother West. So until our next gathering, have a great weekend and go and process all this information like I'm going to do.
And let's thank the interpreters for staying over overtime.
Yeah, they were wonderful.
That's hard work.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
All of them. Absolutely. Indeed. You all stay strong. Stay safe. Stay away from that virus now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Stay safe.
Indeed. I salute you now. Thank you.
Hey, everyone be blessed.
Say
Everyone
hey.
be blessed.
That's the truth. God bless you.